for. My name is Jesse Hansen. I am with the FAAST Northwest Regional Demonstration Center. For those of you who might not be familiar with FAAST, we are the Florida Assistive Technology Program. So what that means is we are designated by the state to be Florida's Assistive Technology Program. Ideally, we would be the one-stop shop for anyone's assistive technology needs. Of course, we provide device loans and device demonstrations. Those are two of the biggest things that the regional demonstration centers do. We help clients find the right devices that they need and all that kind of stuff. So we hope that if you aren't currently using us as a resource, that you will use us in the future for any assistive technology needs. So the presentation I'm giving today is called High-Tech Aids for Daily Living. So we're going to talk a little bit about what some of those daily living aids are, what kind of devices are available, and how to use those devices. Of course, the list of devices is quite exhaustive, so I'm not going to cover every single device. We're going to go more over a brief overview of what types of devices are available, and just realize that within each category, there's multiple brands, there's multiple things that can do a lot of the same functions. So just be aware that when you're looking for a device, just because I put it on the screen doesn't mean that it's the only device available. Okay. Okay, so one of the first categories would be the smart home category for device demonstrations. Within that category, there's a lot of new devices that have come to the market. Probably within the last 10 to 15 years, you've seen a complete overhaul of the way the smart home works. It used to be that when you had a smart home and you were setting it up, you usually had to be doing new construction, or you had to do a complete renovation of the home in order to convert it over to a smart home. And that could cost tens of thousands of dollars to hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending on what the needs were of the individual and what options were being set up. So it wasn't a economical venture for most people, and it wasn't a feasible venture for most people to have a completely automated smart home. Just running the wires and getting the renovation done was so expensive that it was cost prohibitive for most individuals. And then you consider the equipment that had to be purchased to do the different functions. You had to have usually a dedicated server room with networking built into it that did all kinds of different functions. Fortunately, wireless technology has changed that, and we can now have smart homes for everybody, and it's very easily accessible at a very affordable price, especially when you compare that price to what it used to be previously. So a lot of the common devices that people will use with their smart homes will be the Alexa Show. That's what I have here in the center of the screen. There are a variety of models. They come in a few different screen sizes. I believe this one is the 10-inch screen size that I've got here on the screen. And this one also has a rotation feature, so that, or motion rotation, so it can follow your face. And also, one feature that can be useful, you can log in with your smartphone and you can actually rotate the screen to look around. For an AT perspective, that feature can be good for someone who maybe has an individual that they care for. They still want that individual to have their own independence, but occasionally they might need to check on that individual. Maybe they haven't responded to their phone call or their text or something. Having a device like this in the living room can allow that caregiver to log in, view the camera, and through the camera, and they can actually rotate around and look through the living room and see, are they on the floor, are they somewhere, are they just not picking up their phone, are they okay? So again, that feature wasn't necessarily specifically designed for assistive technology, but it does have an applicable use for assistive technology. And that's the way a lot of new devices are. They're adding a lot of new features to all of these smart devices, that are great for everyone, but especially for individuals with disabilities, especially for individuals who need assistive technology. That accessibility is just becoming bigger and better. So that's one of the things with technology. It moves so fast that sometimes it's hard to keep up with it, but also because it's moving forward at such a fast pace, it makes it much more accessible for all of us, and that includes individuals with disabilities. Some of the other devices that I have up here on the screen would be the Google Home. They have a couple of different devices. They have a smaller device and a slightly larger device, and of course they have various models of each. That would be on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, I do have the Alexa Dot. This one up here, I believe it's still called the Alexa Dot, but it's the 4th generation. I think this one on the bottom is the 3rd generation. They have multiple generations. Of course, the Echo, it's called the Echo Dot is the name of their product line. But they also have just the standard Echo, which is a slightly larger device. It has a better speaker than most of them. Of course, this new 4th generation Echo device does have a very good speaker and is very comparable to what you would get from the traditional Amazon Echo. So the reasons I included this device first is because it's one of the first things that people think of when they're considering home automation. So you have these devices that are capable of remembering all kinds of different things for you. So you can set up a list. You could set up, for example, like a grocery list. Maybe someone doesn't even need just a list, but they need actual groceries to be delivered to their door. You can actually order groceries. If it's available in your area, you could actually order groceries directly through these devices. You could order pizza, or you could order some other kind of takeout food directly through these devices. You can set up reminders so that it tells you you need to take your medication at this time, or you need to feed the dog, or whatever the task might be. You can set up a number of reminders, and that's good for everyone. Even people without any kind of a disability can benefit from those features. But again, it goes back to because those features are available, they're really great for individuals with disabilities that need that extra assistance. And we'll continue to talk a little bit about that. But one of the interesting things that you can also do with the Alexa is you can call out to individuals. So you can essentially use it as a phone, and it's less and less common to have a landline phone in your home. So these devices can act as a sort of landline phone for an emergency, for example. So say someone needs to call out to someone and say, even 911, I think you can set them up to call 911 in an emergency to have that assistance without needing to actually pick up a phone. So you could just simply through voice commands, you could actually have it call an emergency line. You could have it call an emergency contact. You could have it call a person who's set up to know if this person's calling me, then there's probably an emergency. I'm going to pick up my phone, kind of a thing. And you can also set up captions on the Alexa Show. So if someone is talking on the phone or talking through the Alexa Show on the phone, it can actually caption what they're saying to them on the screen as they're saying it. Of course, it can also caption shows. If the shows don't, for whatever reason, already have captioning built into them, it can auto caption. But of course, most shows also have captioning built in. So if you're watching a show through that device, then you'll be able to see captions on the screen as you go. You can also hook them up to your smart TVs, so you can control your television through these devices, and you can control your lights and all kinds of different things. We're going to talk about that in a few of the next slides here. Okay, so another high-tech computer aid or high-tech aid for daily living would be some these different cell phone options and phone options that I've got here up on the screen. So on the main menu, on the phone menu here, you have a few different options. You've got the two that I've put here. The one on the left is the Jitterbug flip phone. That's a very popular phone for individuals who don't need very complex features. Maybe they only need to have a few options on their phone, such as like a contact list. They only want to have a few different options as to who they're going to call, who they're going to talk to, what their phone can do. Although these phones can still browse on the internet, it's not intended for that. So someone could browse on the internet, but it's not going to necessarily be the best internet browsing experience on a flip phone. Of course, they are capable of doing that, but again, the purpose of these phones isn't so that someone can have that kind of access. It's more so that it can be simplified and user-friendly for the individual. The two phones here are both Jitterbugs. They do have also a smartphone version. Again, it's a simplified layout, simplified text. And then, of course, one of the other great things, like I mentioned before, with technology advancing, is a lot of the accessibility features on smartphones have become significantly better. So for individuals with visual impairments or individuals with hearing impairments, it's a lot easier to use your phone than it used to be in the past. There's a lot of apps that can help you. There's, you know, one of the great things about smartphones is they can now function as handheld magnifying devices. Just by opening up your camera, you can get a really high quality handheld magnifier, and it's just one of those benefits. If you don't have to carry around an extra device, you don't have to pay more for something that can oftentimes be, as much as a smartphone would be on its own. So for a device that you already have that doesn't cost you any extra money, you can have that accessibility built in. So it's one of those wonderful things about technology advancing is you get better and better options, especially as it goes along, and especially as it pertains to assistive technology. This phone on the far right that I have is a caption phone. It would be more of a traditional style landline phone that does provide captioning services. And there's, of course, a variety of different phones that do that. Going along with home automation. So a lot of those Alexa devices and Google Home devices, the way that they are able to completely revamp your home and make it a smart home would be through some of these devices that I have up here on the screen. So if we look in the top left, well, I guess it's the top right corner, but on the left-hand side, we have the Philips Hue. Those are smart bulbs that it has its own little smart hub built in, and you can control your lights through the with a standard socket, so you don't really have to retrofit your wiring or anything like that. You just screw it into the socket. It could be a standard ceiling socket, it could be a lamp, anything that can take a standard bulb. And then you can, depending what kind you get, sometimes they only come in a white light variety. These ones here on the screen have different colors. So the one that's shown would be purple, but you can usually change it to green or yellow or red or any variety of colors that the individual prefers. They offer dimming, so you can voice control your lights, and you can say something to the effect of Alexa, dim the lights. You can say Alexa, dim the lights 50%, dim the lights 80%, all kinds of different features to change the feel of the room just by simply speaking a command. You can also obviously turn on and off the lights with voice commands. Also through the app on your phone, you can control the lights that way. So if maybe you have an individual who's not able to speak their commands, they can still control them through an app, say on an iPad or an Android phone. They could still control the lights that way. a little bit over to the right, I have this SwitchBot curtain rod mover. So what this enables you to do is open and close your curtains automatically. You can do it through your phone. You can set it up to open and close them at certain times of the day automatically. So that would be beneficial to someone that still wants that privacy, still wants to allow light in during certain times of the day, but maybe they can't move the curtains on their own. This would be a device that would be able to help them. A little bit lower than that, excuse me, on the screen we have the Nest thermostat. This one is the learning thermostat, so it learns your daily habits. Of course, you control the thermostat through your phone. There's a number of thermostats that are smart thermostats out there. So obviously this is one of the more popular ones, but there's many different companies that are now making these smart thermostats that you can control through your smartphone. And of course with Alexa, you can control them. You can tell it to turn up and down the temperature, change it from hot to cold, whatever you need it to do. A little bit further to the right, we have the Amazon Smart Plug. So that can turn any outlet in your home into a smart outlet. So you could turn on a lamp, a fan, whatever you can think of that can plug into an outlet, maybe a coffee maker or something like that. You can control it through, with the plug, you can now control it through your phone, whereas obviously it wouldn't be able to do that if it's not a smart device on its own. You can essentially turn a number of devices into smart devices. And again, that kind of goes back to that whole no need to rewire your house thing. All of a sudden, every plug in your house can be a smart plug. Down to the left, in the left-hand corner of the screen, I have the Amazon smart oven. So they have this. They have a couple different models. This particular one that I have on the screen does convection bake. It does reheating your food from not just with microwaves, but also with an oven type heat. So if you were just reheating something, but you didn't want to necessarily put it through the microwave setting, you could put it through just the reheat setting. Of course, it is also a microwave, and also I believe in an air fryer as well. So you can control this microwave through your Alexa app, either through your smartphone or through voice commands. It can tell you when your food is ready. It can tell you when it's preheated. It can do all kinds of different things. Again, one of the benefits of a device like this is because it has so many different functions built into it, and because it's a small footprint, it's very beneficial to an individual that needs access to cooking. Maybe they need an oven, but obviously a traditional oven isn't going to have the features of a smart oven like this one would, and it has a small footprint. So it's great for an apartment setting or something like that. Here the captions are kind of blocking the smart light switch, unfortunately, but I think you can probably see at least what it is. So it's the same idea. You can turn any light switch in your house into a smart switch. Obviously turning on and off your lights through your phone, through Alexa, or through any kind of internet connected device. As long as it's able to have access to your network, then you can use the light switch to turn on and off the lights, or if it's wired up to other devices, if that particular, sometimes outlets are wired up to switches, then you could also swap out the switch and put in a smart switch for that outlet. An example of that might be like a garbage disposal. So you could wire it up to your garbage disposal. Then whenever you need to use the disposal, you can actually do it remotely or through a voice command, as opposed to having to actually flip the switch yourself. Again, right to the right of that, we have the Ring doorbell. That's a very popular item. There's a number of smart doorbells out there. Ring is one of the most well-known. Of course, many different companies now offer these smart doorbells that can record video for you. It can show you who's at the door. And it works on a number of levels. It works for security purposes. It works for, just someone needing to know who's at the door, and then them being able to talk to them through their phone and say, just leave the package on the doorstep, or come around back because I've got whatever set up for you. You can, just however they need to do it, they can do it through that. So it's a wonderful option for individuals that need that kind of accessibility. Of course, you have keyless entry locks that can be controlled through your phone. That's what's in the bottom right-hand corner here. Those are great because you can unlock and lock your door with your phone. You can also set it up with a keypad to give access to someone and say, here's the code if you need someone to get into your house, or you can set up a temporary code even just for like a one-time use, or if you maybe have an individual who is having someone stay over, then you can set up a code for them, that kind of a thing. Okay, so home safety and security is another feature that has come a long way. So it used to be, you used to have a sales rep come into your house. They would try and upcharge you for all these different things that you needed to have in your home. Again, it usually often required running a lot of wiring through the walls. So there was usually an expense associated with that. It usually required an expensive monitoring system. So now, of course, those options are still available, but even the big companies are now moving more to this model of wireless devices and wireless sensors and everything like that. And the large, touch pads that have a screen on them and everything built in with cameras and stuff built into them. So there's a lot of options out there. There's a lot of money saving options if someone is on a tight budget. You can just set up as little or as much as you want. So if you want to have 4 door sensors and 20 window sensors, you can do that. If you only want to have a couple of door sensors and maybe a few window sensors, you can do that. So the customizable options really make it very economical and feasible to set up a home security and home monitoring system. Something that people like to use these systems for is not just for home security though, but for also monitoring maybe a client that they have, or if they're a caregiver for a family member. This can help them with making sure that they're safe. So you can set up little cameras inside the house. So this particular one, the left-hand corner that I'm pointing at, is the Simply Safe system. That particular system is very customizable. You can get little cameras for inside the house. You can get exterior cameras as well. You can get motion sensors, door and window sensors that sense when the door is open or the window is open. Of course, a keypad, key fobs for turning on and off the devices. And of course, all of these smart security systems can now be controlled through your phone as well. So you can look at the cameras through your phone or tablet. You can turn on and off the system. You can set up temporary access for individuals, all that kind of stuff right through your phone. And most of them can also be controlled through something like Alexa. So you could set up your Alexa devices that we talked about previously to control your security system. And again, a lot of the benefits of a security system is not just, for home invasion, but also just for that peace of mind that that individual is going to be taken care of. They're going to be okay. Like you can, for example, set up panic sensors. Right here, I have a picture of a panic sensor towards the middle of the screen. And you can set that panic button up to do a number of things. It could call 911, it could call the police department, it could call the fire department. It just depends on how you want to set it up. You could even set up multiple ones and maybe label them as medical. You could set up another one as police or something like that, just depending on what the individual needs and how they want to customize it. Some of these systems do require a monthly monitoring, but again, the monthly monitoring options are you can shop around basically for your monitoring options. That means you can get a fairly cheap monitoring rate compared to previously, like I was talking about, when you had a sales rep come into your home, they're only going to give you the one option, and that option is probably going to be the most expensive one that they can get you into, unless you say, I don't want it, I don't want it, I don't want it, then they'll keep going down in price until maybe you get something that's acceptable. But now it's kind of a different model of you can shop around, you can find exactly what monitoring service you want, exactly what features you want, and it can be very reasonably priced. Of course, some of them also offer the option of not having a monitoring service at all. So you could set it up just to notify someone through the internet. It could send a message to your phone, say there's a break-in, or maybe someone hits the panic button. You could still set it up to notify an individual, like a family member or something like that, without the monitoring service attached, because they'll still usually work through the Wi-Fi. The example that I have here in the middle is the Ring floodlight that has a camera and two floodlights on top. That's good for, and it's meant to be placed outdoors, obviously. It's great for security. You can see who's outside. It'll light up the area so you can see it very well, and also deter people once they see that light come on and they see a camera's on them. It's going to deter people from coming into the home. It can also be for safety reasons. If you have a walkway outside and it's dark and not very well lit, it can light it up. And that camera, if someone were to fall in that particular area and you're a caregiver for somebody, you can check on that camera and say, oh, is anyone out here? Is everything okay outside? So it's a great option for caregivers as well. Same thing with the Ring security system. That's the picture down here in the bottom corner. It comes with a keypad, all kinds of different features, sensors, everything like that. And then in the far right-hand bottom corner, I have the Ring internal camera. So that's to go inside the home. You can set up a number of those inside the house if you want one in the living room, maybe in the kitchen or dining room or something like that. You can set them up in various areas of the home. Another advancement would be medication dispensers. So you have these automatic dispensers that can be set up to dispense the medication at certain times and only at certain times. They can be set up so, again, some of these have different options. This one in the top middle will open up the lid so all of the medication is accessible. So if you have a client, or maybe you're just an individual who is okay with having access to all the medication at once and only selecting the proper day, then that can be a good device. However, if you need to only have access to only the medication and it's a concern that they might take more medication than they need, you'd probably want to go with one that only opens up the day or only dispenses the amount that they need for that time period at one time and doesn't give access to any of the other medication throughout the day. So again, there's a multitude of options. This one on the far right-hand side is called the Priya. It's a popular option. You load up the medication for the month or the week, and I believe it's a month setting right there, and it will dispense it as needed. Of course, it depends on how much medication that person needs. If they need to take it 4 times a day or something like that, then you might have to set it up a little bit differently and refill it more often, just depending on the particular use and the particular client. And the one here in the middle is the MediMinder. Same thing. It dispenses. It only opens the day that and the time that individual needs. It does offer, however, a screen and a camera and video conferencing. So say an individual maybe has a question about the medication when they're taking it, when they're supposed to take it, they could do a quick video chat with their caregiver or a family member. You don't necessarily have to only use it for that. You could just use it to do a traditional video call. But the main purpose on this device is so that someone can maybe ask some questions or get some assistance if they need it. And so that's a great option for someone who needs that. And going along with mobility aids, some of the devices that you can get in your home would be like this chair lift here. It can change height based on what they need. So if the individual is coming up to a high counter, they can actually change the height of their chair. They need to be lower to get underneath the table. They can actually lower it down. So that's another great option. The P-lift here is specifically designed for porches that maybe don't have access with a ramp. So you can actually set that up at a place of business or at a home setting and wheel the wheelchair onto the lift, and it can be a substitute for a ramp. And then of course a chairlift. There's a number of companies that make these, and there's a number of varieties of different chairlifts out there, but they enable an individual who might have stairs in their home, don't have any kind of an elevator or ramp or anything like that, so that they can go up and down the stairs. This enables them to still have access to both levels of their home without having to climb the stairs. And so that's the end of the presentation. I don't know if anyone has any questions that they want to ask. Let's see. Make sure everyone's not, I don't know if everyone's muted or not. I don't think so. Also, if you have questions, you can type them into the chat box and we'll be happy to answer them. Any questions? I'm not hearing anybody, so I don't know if we have anything. Okay, well, I want to thank everyone for coming. I enjoyed giving this presentation, and I hope all of you enjoyed it as well. Okay, I do see a question here. The question is, hello, did you say that the Jitterbug can be used with Alexa? Their smartphone should be able to be set up with Alexa. And actually, I believe their flip phone can as well. Yes, so both of them can be set up with Alexa. Now that I think about it, yes, both of them can be. Any other questions that anybody has? Okay, well, if no one has any other questions, I'm going to go ahead and end the presentation. But again, I want to thank everybody for coming, and I hope everybody enjoyed it.